Hello, beautiful soul sister, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebekah Kiger. I'm a trauma-informed master mindset and money coach, as well as a financial expert of over 17 years. I have spent my entire adult life studying the difference between successful and unsuccessful people, and I plan on sharing all of the things with you on this journey together. This podcast is called the Soul Powered Podcast because it's my desire to share with you how to create a life that is powered by your soul, not by societal standards or what everyone else in your life tells you that you should be doing, but actually powered by your soul. The reason you'd want to do this is because I believe that this is the fastest way to unlock your portal to prosperity and become what I call the wildly wealthy woman. This is the portal that once you enter it, you gain access to the prosperity, abundance, wealth, time freedom, experiences, fulfillment that are your birthright. I don't believe that you came here to build someone else's dreams. I believe you came here to live your soul-powered life and live it to the fullest. And I plan on sharing with you exactly how to do that during our time together. So thank you so much for being here. I know we're going to have so much fun together today. Let's dive in. Hello, my love, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebekah Kiger, and I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to the show, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm so honored to have you. I'm so honored to be in your presence, and I can't wait to dive into today's topic because it's really, really, really important. And I work with really high-level, incredible women, and they still don't necessarily know about some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today. It's crazy. Like sometimes do you know if you really get good at something in your life, and maybe you don't even acknowledge your own gifts, which was me for a long time too, but do you know if you're really good at something and you tell someone else how to do it and they're like blown away and you're like, wait, I thought everyone knew how to do this? That's kind of where I am with some of the processes and the tactics and the tools that I've been using over the last 4 years with the members of the Aligned Money program and my one-to-one clients and just working alongside other highly successful women. And sometimes I forget. I forget that these are practices that I've been doing every single day, that I know how to move through blocks. I know how to do these things really rapidly and really easily. And I just got this download around the fact that not everyone has that. Not everyone has that ability to be able to dive in and just release a block on their own or move through financial plateaus on their own or understand how to release limiting beliefs or do nervous system techniques. Like sometimes I have to remember that I've got to bring things down. Excuse me, I'm drinking these Zevias right now. And Zevias, okay, if you've ever had a Zevia before, they're amazing, but they make me burp so much. They are like pop, I guess, but they are supposed to be like a little bit healthier. I don't know if they actually are or not. It doesn't matter. That's not the point, and I digress. But I always am burping. Okay, so I've got one right here, and that's just the way it's going to be. So forgive me ahead of time if I do belch once or twice on accident. Okay, so I have gotten this download around the fact that I need to bring it back to the basics. And some of the concepts that I've been sharing, you all have been tracking with me 1000%, like the entire way. And I also know that, we've got to build a really solid foundation. If you want to build this, I look at it like a house of wealth, right? Like you're building this incredible house and you can't build that house. You can't build any house on a foundation that is sand, right? Like that's going to blow by and blow away at the first sign of any tumultuous weather. Think about it. If you are building a house on sand and a 50-mile-an-hour gust of wind comes by, it's probably just going to blow the house away. It's the same thing, though, with what you're building as you're building this wealth, this house of wealth, this idea of this is what I'm creating. And this is a lifelong process. I think that a lot of us, especially because we live in this information age and this age of TikTok and all these things, that we think that as soon as we decide that we want to make all of this money, that like we see 8-year-olds who hopped onto YouTube and within a couple of years are, millionaires by the time they're 10. And I think that that's kind of become a bit of this expectation with our society is, okay, if I hop online and I start, becoming an influencer, I start posting videos, or I want to become a coach, like it's just going to happen really quickly for me. And for some people it will. That's 100% definitely a phenomenon that happens. And at the same time, I have seen people where that has happened with them and they haven't developed the type of tools and the technology. It's not technology, the tools and I don't even know why I said technology. It's within themselves. What's the word that I'm looking for? By the way, guys, I'm doing a video podcast today. So you're going to see me here on video if you're on Spotify. And then I'm going to start posting these to YouTube as well. So I'm not used to doing video. I'm kind of like all over the place. I am also typically just like closing my eyes and channeling whenever I do a podcast. So just bear with me through this one, okay? Because it's a little bit different and I'm like fidgeting a bit because it's just a new process for me. So we're just going to get used to it. Okay. So going back to the conversation that we were having earlier, I think it's really important to note that when we are building a legacy and we're building something that is really intended to be, like, if you consider yourself to be a cycle breaker, we're really building this generational legacy, and it's not something that has to come quickly, although it can. That doesn't have to be the expectation, because when we put so much expectation on something, it's like we can squeeze the life out of it. If you are holding so tightly onto something that it has to happen in this way and it has to happen by this time and it has to happen in, this business or this offer, like you're literally squeezing the life out of whatever it is that you are building. And nothing can exist, right? Like you could be choking the life out of these ideas and out of this inspiration that the universe is trying to bring to you. I got to take my sock off. It's warm in here. Okay. So what I'm getting at with all of this is that we really need to understand how to build a really solid foundation. If you want to build something that's going to last, and not just something that, we see lottery winners all the time making all of this money and then they're immediately losing it, or people who have really fast success in business and then they struggle for the next couple of years or they give up. These are things that I see happen all of the time, and it's not talked about a lot. It's really not something that we talk about often because people are embarrassed and there's a lot of guilt and there's a lot of shame around, oh, I made all this money and I made all this happen, but I wasn't able to keep it. And so what are people going to think about me if I don't keep it, if I can't figure out how to manage it, right? I'm bad with money. This was never meant for me. See, I wasn't actually meant to be successful. And so that's typically what ends up happening is, we create all of these stories around the things that occur, and then we don't continue that momentum. So if you want to break through your current plateau, your current financial plateau, I'm going to give you 4 of my favorite tips, and we're going to go deep into these things. That's why I'm actually going to make this a multi-part episode or a multi-part series, because I really want you to I want to dive deep. I want to dive deep today. I want to dive deep in these exercises, and I know that not everyone, is going to I want you to like integrate it as well. If I just throw all of these things at you, are you going to implement every single one of them? Or are you going to take one that you really like and then try to implement that and then maybe come back and do some more? So the point is, I don't want it to be something where you are overwhelmed. Overwhelm is one of the main reasons that people don't take action. And so I'm not going to do that to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one step at a time. And then you can try that. You can implement it. You can see how it works. You can see what changes in your life as a result of trying these things and report back and tell me how it goes. One of the very important concepts, probably the most important concept that people don't understand about a financial plateau, is that if you have tried all of the things, okay, let's say you tried all of the things, you have tried all the different strategies, you've hired coaches, you have worked harder, you've worked longer hours, like you've done all of the things that will make you successful, and you're still not where you want to be financially, then that tells me that there's something deeper that's going on below the surface. And it's not a surface level approach. It's not another strategy that's going to change it, because if it was going to change by strategy alone, you would have been able to do that by now. You would have done it by now. We're not in the lack of information age. You absolutely could just go onto YouTube and find, a seven-figure strategy or multi seven-figure strategy or wherever it is that your goal is. And then you could say, hey, I'm gonna go and do this. But it's not about the strategy. It's really about, okay, why aren't you taking action on the strategy that you are learning? And one of the main reasons that women specifically are not, and humans all in general, are not taking action towards what it is that they want, or they are taking action and it's not creating the results that they want, is because there's underlying fear in their nervous system as it relates to that next level. That's the baseline of this conversation, is if you can understand that the reason that you have not reached the next level in your life is because the nervous system doesn't feel safe with that. If you can actually start to explore that, everything in your life is going to change. Like, I promise you, this is going to be such a massive part of your journey, because you will start to see that if I just make this next level safe to my nervous system, I'll be able to get there. And that's the way that it works. Because if you think about the nervous system, it's tied to our survival response. It's literally tied to the oldest part of our brain, which is responsible for our survival. And so anything that is unfamiliar, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but anything that's unfamiliar to the nervous system is automatically going to be deemed as unsafe. And the reason that that is because dating all the way back to tribal times, right? If you come out of your tent when you're living in tribes or cavemen days, even, and you see a saber-toothed tiger, you have to either fight it off, right? Fight, or you've got to run away. And this is how it works. Still to this day, you are not faced necessarily with a saber-toothed tiger or a bear, but what you are faced with are things that your nervous system deems as unsafe. And so the body responds the exact same way as though it was faced with an actual threat. The nervous system is activated based on a real or a perceived threat. And so it's really important to understand that aspect. And it's also important to know that if there's a pattern or a cycle that's going on and on and on in your life, that is what is potentially happening, most likely happening below the surface. Of course, there are nuances to this, just like anything else. But the whole point is, okay, if that is the case and my nervous system doesn't feel safe to the with the next level and going after that next level, I've got to understand why. What's going on below the surface? Why does my nervous system not feel safe with it? And then how do I move past it? So we'll talk a little bit about why the nervous system won't feel safe. In a nutshell, realistically, the reason the nervous system doesn't feel safe with the next level is simply because it's not familiar. Okay. So if you look at your baseline when you were growing up, you have a baseline of where your nervous system's comfortable. And this dates back even, studies are showing now that these things are inherited in some cases as well. And that there are things, beliefs, there are ways of being, there are protective patterns within the nervous system that are actually inherited through epigenetics. They literally come through the bloodline. So some of the blocks that you have, some of the ways of being, like, did you ever have something where you feel like, I don't even know why I do that? I don't have anything in my life that would make me do that. I don't know where this stemmed from. I just do it, or I watch my parents do it, and I can't stop doing that either. I don't want to be that way, but I watch my parents do it. I'm doing the same thing that my mom did. I'm doing the same thing that my dad did. So there's a lot of this that occurs, and I know for me that it occurred for a long time as well. So there's no shame or guilt in any of this. The whole reason I'm bringing this up is because you can only shift something that you're aware of. So if you want to shift, you're going to want to open up your awareness to what is actually going on in your life so that you can begin to shift it. That's why inside of the Aligned Money program, the very first thing that I do with my clients is help them become aware of the blocks, help them become aware of the nervous system responses, the limiting beliefs, the way that they're showing up around money, their triggers, all of the things. Because if we don't understand, it's like you don't know what you don't know. If you don't understand what you're doing and how it's blocking you from the next level, how can you stop doing it? It's a blind spot. It's a blind spot for you, right? Think about someone in your life who maybe you look at this person who's like dating the same kind of guy over and over and over. And it's like, it's like a same person in a different body. And you're like, dude, like every single guy that you've been with is literally like cheating on you consistently. And I don't know why you're still going back to the same type of guy, but like they are stuck in that pattern. They don't see it because it's a blind spot, or maybe they see it, but they're not willing to actually see it yet. Because if you really did see what was going on and you knew how to fix it, you would change it, right? Like most of us are not, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're not someone who is like, oh, I know I'm doing this. Yeah, yeah, I know I am. I know I'm self sabotaging everything in my life. I know that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but like, I want to do that. No, it's like, I know I'm doing it, but I don't know how to stop, or like, I can't help it. Like, it's just something like it's an urge, it's a physical urge, right? And there's a lot of stuff that comes up like that. That's why, I mean, the body keeps score. There's a lot of reasons that we get these physical urges to do things that are not necessarily in alignment with our highest path. But it all really has to do with that baseline. It's that baseline of our comfort zone. And this is all occurring through our programming years when we were kids. So when you were a child, you watched all of these things happen in your parents' lives and or your caregivers' lives. And then you just kind of like thought, okay, well, that must just be normal. That must just be normal. I remember thinking that, like, this is just the way that it is. And I vividly remember when I was in a relationship, I was engaged to someone before I met Eric. And it didn't work out. And, he was a nice enough guy. It wasn't meant to be. But I remember specifically the moment that I realized that good families, okay, I'm using that word loosely. Like I'm just gonna say it and then I'll preface with what I'm trying to say here. Good families who don't fight and who care about each other and who help to support each other and who are just peaceful and have like positive like they're not blowing up at each other every family gathering. They're having good like quality time that they're spending together and they're supporting each other. Like that was my very first experience of a good quote unquote family is whenever I was with him. I hadn't been exposed to that before. I had only been exposed to people who were very volatile, who like outbursts and fights. The father of my child was the same way. So like our relationship was just a reenactment of my childhood. It was just we scream and we blow up and we break things and we call each other names and we fight like physically. We do all of these, intense crazy things and then it's like we make up and act like it never happened. That's how it was for me when I was a child. So you literally don't know what you don't know. And then I was in a relationship right after that where it was the same thing. And big blow ups, big anger issues, drunken fights, things like that. And I just literally thought like this is the way it is. 100% never even had been exposed to the fact that there was another option. And so again, I vividly remember in my third relationship as an adult, and then I met Eric after that. So I've had like four serious relationships as an adult. And in my third relationship, it was very apparent to me. Like I had like this light bulb moment that like the way that I have been for the entirety of my life up until that point is not actually normal. Like, did you ever have that happen where you're like, I didn't know that there was even like another option. I didn't know that. I genuinely didn't know that you could have like a healthy, happy, good family life. It sounds kind of sad as I say it out loud, but I didn't know that. And so as I learned, as we do in relationships, I realized that that was the case. And so when I got into a relationship with Eric, I already knew that it was possible to have that. Not saying that there wasn't fights, not saying that there wasn't chaos in the beginning, because there was as we were navigating each other and healing and growing both together and individually. But I had already had a baseline experience of, okay, you can be in a healthy relationship and things don't actually have to be always like tumultuous. I remember watching, I'm not even going to say his name on here. Are we going to say his name? Should we say his name? We'll say his name. Okay. I remember watching David, who I met him in Puerto Rico, as a matter of fact. He was my friend Alicia and I, who's been on the podcast before. We went to Puerto Rico. This is like super digressing, but we'll come back. I'll bring it back home here in a second. We went to Puerto Rico. I think it was like, oh my God, probably no, what, 15 years ago, damn near 12 years ago, something like that now. And we went there. We stayed at a resort together, just me and her. It was like a little bestie trip. And I met David at the time. And we ended up like staying in touch after I came home. And then he came up to Pittsburgh, probably, I don't know, 6 months or a year later, and stayed for quite some time. Didn't end very well. There was a little bit of a, okay, I have to be careful about like how I share it, only because, you know, it's just one of those things where like he could be listening. He lingered around for a lot longer than I wanted him to, put it that way. Up until like probably a year ago, and I've been with Eric for 8 years now. David would like message me like for 8, almost like 8 years, so about 7 years. I would just randomly get messages about how like he was still in love with me and things like that. So it's a little touchy of a subject, only because like there's a likelihood that he like tunes into this because he wants to hear my voice. I know that that sounds really cocky, but when someone, I promise it's coming from a place of like, this man would not go away kind of thing. And if you are listening, I don't know what to tell you. You know, I moved on and I hope that you did too. And I wish you the best. So let's go. Let's move on from that. Because it's even something that, talking about trauma responses and things, that was something that was really difficult for me for a while because I felt very trapped and like I was trying to move on in my relationship and this person just would not. Who was very much so like relentless. So anyone that knows our situation at all knows that like, yeah, there was a significant period of time where like I've had to have my brothers call him and be like, you've got to leave her alone. Like it's time to move on. Eric was calling him, like it was a big thing. So moving on from that, because I don't, it's not one of my favorite topics to talk about. But my point with all of this is that my baseline for relationships was chaos. So bringing this home, if your baseline around money, well, my baseline of like my nervous system's baseline was chaos. So of course I would create chaos in relationships, but then I would also create chaos in my finances, meaning I would make a lot of money, but then I'd find ways to go and spend it on things. Thankfully, I was saving and paying myself first, which I think is like a really good thing, especially for someone who has like an avoidant attachment style, or someone who, you know, maybe even has like a disorganized attachment style, even where if you can pay yourself first, it's going to help you to have something at the end of the day. And what I mean by pay yourself first is like automatically invest some of your money before you get a paycheck. Like, so all the money that I was saving essentially came out before I ever got my pay. And so that way, even if I spent all of the money, right, from my paycheck at the time, then I would still have some left over in investments and long-term, you know, types of savings accounts. So that's my point with that. So thankfully I did that. I knew enough to do that because that's how I was able to save my first, you know, six figures by my early 20s. But it's not something that if I wouldn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have had anything like, because I was spending all of my money because it was like my body was addicted to that chaos of like, where's the next meal coming from? Even though I was making enough money to provide for myself by this time, right? By my early 20s, or I'm sorry, my mid 20s, I did spend a lot of time in survival mode where I actually wasn't making enough money to pay my bills and things. And I was on government assistance and all of that. And so, but then you know, I learned through the years and I started saving and I started making more. But I found ways until I learned how to regulate my nervous system around money, around relationships, around everything in my life to create chaos. And so financially, how that showed up again was I would spend all of my money and I would like be living paycheck to paycheck no matter how much it is that I was making. The other way that this would show up is I was very avoidant in my tendencies around like there would be bills that were coming out automatically and I just neglected to like pay attention to auto pays and like I would sign up for free trials. And does any of this resonate, by the way? I would sign up for free trials for things and then I wouldn't cancel them. So then I would have a certain amount on my account and then I wouldn't know that like this $500 thing was going to come out. And so it would, and then it would, it would mess me up or I wouldn't have enough to pay the bills or whatever it was, like just dumb shit like that. And so as you start to regulate your nervous system and you start to no longer have chaos be your nervous system's baseline, okay? So now it's like my nervous system's baseline is safety. So it would only make sense that now there's always a safety net. There's always way more than enough financially because that's who I am and that's how I operate now. But it took me some time. It took me quite a bit of time in order to understand how to do all of this. And so I want to fast track that for you. So our very first step, if you're looking to break through your current financial plateau, is if we know that the nervous system is not feeling safe around getting to the next level, which we've kind of established at this point, then we've got to make the next level safe. One of the fastest ways to be able to do that is to actually familiarize your nervous system with money. I know it sounds like very basic, and some people think, oh, well, so, it's too simple, so it's not important. But simple doesn't mean easy, by the way. Simple is just simple, right? It's a simple process, but sometimes we think that it's too simple, and so we won't do it. But I'm telling you, these are things that have not only helped myself, but then helped countless of my clients to be able to break through their plateaus. That's why they're breaking through their limits over and over and over again and creating the kind of income and the kind of wealth that they desire. It's because they've done these things. So I wouldn't be sharing any of this with you if it wasn't actually something that would be really powerful for you to do. So, number one, the very first thing that I would recommend and invite you to do to break through your current financial plateau is to start a regular practice of money dates. Now, let me explain. So, if you think about money like a relationship with money's like a relationship, just the same way as any other relationship that you have in your life. So, if you were married, like let's say I was married, married obviously, and I never prioritize my husband. I never go on dates with him. I never do anything with him that makes him feel special or seen or valued or heard. How often do you think that he's going to want to spend time with me? Or how long do you think he's going to want to be with me? Your relationship with money is the exact same way. Money is here as a value and a tool in your life. And so it needs to be treated as such. This does a couple things. Number one, it shows the energy of money, because everything is energy, that you value it. And so therefore it wants to be around. The other thing it does is it shows your nervous system that money is safe. Money is safe to handle, money is safe to work with, and therefore you will feel safe or safer as you're moving to that next level in your life because your nervous system is going to feel safe with money. Whereas right now it might be repelling money from you because it doesn't feel safe with the next level. It will start to understand, oh, money is a safe topic. We can go ahead and call in more of it and hold on to it. It's not something that's scary anymore. So I'll give you some ideas about the way that I love to do money dates, and you can take what works and leave the rest. So my favorite way to do money dates is to light a candle or incense, both. I actually like to do both. Get your favorite drink. So I will have one of my Zevias, obsessed. Put on some soft music, grab a glass of wine or whatever it is that you want to do. And get intimate with your money. Okay. You'll start with taking your clothes. No, I'm kidding. We're not doing anything. Nothing like that. Joking completely, but you're going to be vulnerable with money, right? Like just the same way that you would go on a date with anyone else. So opening up your bank account and starting to just sit with the money that you have. Like I will open my bank account and I'm just looking at like, thank you for being here. So I'm using some of my nervous system tools ahead of time, which we won't be able to go into all of those things. But one of the most important ones that you can do, or the easiest one, I guess, that you could do is just breathe. Like, not just breathe like you're breathing right now, but like take a moment and like center yourself before you enter into this practice and just like, okay, you might start getting anxious and nervous. A lot of people do when they open their bank accounts or they go to handle money. So again, that's a sign that your nervous system doesn't feel safe around it. So just go ahead and breathe. Show your nervous system, hey, if we were actually being chased by a saber-tooth tiger, we would not be able to pause here and breathe. Okay. So just like we're not, nobody's coming to hurt us. We're fine. Just take a moment and breathe. And like I just close my eyes and I'm like, okay. I'm not like hyperventilating. If you're too activated, you could activate yourself even more through breath. So just like go with maybe touch like your heart, put one hand on your chest and like one hand on your belly and just get like present with your body. And just breathe as deeply as it feels good for you and do that maybe 5 or 6 times. And then start your practice. Okay. Like be intentional about this. So, some of the things that I look at when I do my money dates are like how much income has come in this month, right? You could look at how much income has come in this year. How much do I have in savings? How much do I have in checking? How much do I have in investments? Or do you have any debt, right? Like things like that. You want to take a look at all of the aspects of money. And this is something that we do quite often inside of the Align Money program. So if you're looking for support with this, obviously let me know. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram and we can talk about that. But this is really an important practice because no matter how much or little you have right now, the idea is the more that we can allow the nervous system to feel safe in your current reality, the more it's going to feel safe in whatever reality that it is that you are moving on to. Because think about it, if you're not where you want to be right now, which you're likely probably striving for more, just like the majority of us, we're designed to strive for more. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not necessarily happy with where you want to be right now, then what makes you think you're going to be happy at the next level? Like, really, if you thought about it, what makes you think that you'll be happy with the next level? This becomes a carrot on a stick scenario. And I've seen it far too many times where it's like we get to that goal that we have set in mind and then we're off to the next one. Like we celebrate for like 2 seconds and then we're off to the next one, off to the next one, off to the next one. I just signed a really huge opportunity client as well and I really had to like sit with that aspect of it where it's I'm not going to, it's like we get to the top of the mountain and then we can't wait to like jump to the next. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to allow this to be integrated into who it is that I am. I'm going to allow this opportunity to really, I'm going to really receive this because it's important to me to show my nervous system that it's safe to deal with these kinds of numbers. These are numbers that I wouldn't have fathomed at certain points in my life. And it's going to take some time for the nervous system to get used to. So taking a look at, okay, what you have, how much you have coming in. Let me see, I wrote down some of my notes here. How much is expected to come in next month, right? Even taking a look at what was your favorite way to make money this month? What did you enjoy about making money? What were some of the things that you'd like to do a little bit more of? And then where's some opportunity for growth? So really sitting with your financial situation and trying to release judgment around it. I'll talk to my money. I'm like, thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry that I really didn't know exactly how to work with you before. I didn't know how to have a positive relationship with you. I didn't know how to have a positive relationship with anyone, a healthy relationship, I should say. I didn't know how to do that before, but now I do. So can we start to like work on this a little bit? Do you think we can start fresh, right? We can be like the Febreze brothers, if you get the reference from the other guys. It's feeling so fresh in here. It's like we're like the Febreze brothers. Anyways, that's the idea. Is like, can you really start to be fresh? Start this fresh and new relationship with money where you're saying, "Hey, I forgive you, and you forgive me too. I know I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. I know I haven't treated you well in the past. I probably have either been really, really anxious when you've been around or haven't wanted to see you at all. And I can't imagine another relationship in my life where I would do that and then also think that I was going to create some sort of healthy situation around that. It doesn't make sense. So thank you for being here. And I'd like to work on this. And just being with your money, like just being with however much you have with or without judgment. Because here's the thing is if you're not where you want to be right now, that's not actually indicative of where it is that you're going, right? The way that you are situated right now in your life, if you opened your bank account, it's all based on past decisions. Where you're going in the future is based on what you do right now, like right this second. That's what's going to dictate where you are in the future, not what you've done in the past. What you've done in the past dictates where you are right now. Where you are right now is going to dictate where it is that you're going. So you've got to change the story. You've got to change the paradigm. You've got to start to actually understand that this, in this very moment that you're in right now, is where you can make the decision to shift your entire life. But if you still are living in the past, with all the mistakes that you've made and all the low vibe energy that you feel stuck around money, and then you're also projecting that out into the future, you're never going to get there. And I say that with love because I want that for you more than anything. Like, I want you to go out and create what it is that you want in the world. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I have no reason to be here other than the fact that I want to give back and like I want to help you because I understand what it's like to be on both ends of the spectrum. I understand what it's like to have nothing and at periods of time not know where my daughter's next meal was coming from and being a teen mother who was broke and on government assistance and had to borrow money and ask people for things and beg and plead for what it is that I needed, which was my basic needs. I've been working out of necessity from the age of about 13. If I needed pads, if I needed tampons, if I needed hairspray, if I needed mousse, if I needed toilet paper, there were periods of time I had to go and get it for myself. So this is something that I know and understand on a very deep level, and I don't want that for you. And it took me, I think that we're going to land this plane on this last concept here, which is it took me a really long time to, okay, let me back up. Once I understood all of this and I began to regulate my nervous system around money and I worked on healing my relationship with money, both from a top down approach, meaning mindset work as well, and a bottom up approach, which is also like the nervous system, which is where the true transformation happens, I believe. But I've done both sides, both sides. Once I really deeply started doing this work, it didn't take me very long to get out of survival mode on the physical plane, meaning it didn't take me long to create a savings account that had way more than enough. It didn't take me a long time to start bringing in more income than ever before while working less. It didn't take me a very long time to do those physical things. What took me a longer time was getting out of survival mode in here from the inside. And this is where I want to do the work with you, is where your external reality may already, like your inner reality, doesn't reflect properly and equal to your reactions about your external reality. Does that make sense? I'll phrase it in a different way. A lot of women that I see, their needs are met. They have a roof over their head, they have jobs, they have businesses, they have a lot more than their nervous system is telling them they have. But they're still in survival mode on the inside. And it was a lot harder for me to get out of survival mode than I expected. And that's why I've created an entire program around it, because I don't want that for you. And I lived in survival mode and in hypervigilance and nervous system dysregulation for far longer than I needed to. I didn't enjoy the money that I was bringing in. I wasn't fulfilled around it. I always thought that I needed more and that it wasn't enough. And I was always projecting out into the future that I wasn't going to have, if I spent money now, I wasn't going to have it in the future. I was like presupposing that making a financial decision today is going to be the thing that ruins me for tomorrow. And it wasn't the case. That was never the case. I had to rewire my own nervous system, my brain, and my body to be able to feel safe around money before I could actually access the true fulfillment. Because my financial reality has been that of overflow for quite some time. I just didn't see it. I just wasn't living in the overflow. I was living in the scarcity. I was living in the fear. I was making decisions from that place. And it's just such a night and day difference being on the other side and being able to live in this detached space and being able to do things simply because I want to. That my desire to have something is enough of a reason for me to go and buy it. That my desire to go and travel. Like I was just chatting with my two business besties this morning, and we're going to go to BBD Live again in December. So maybe I'll have another spoon bending story to share with you guys. Hopefully we'll do that again. That was a lot of fun. But what we've been doing after each of our mastermind events is staying a few days. So our first trip in April, Sabrina and I stayed in Sedona for a few extra days, which was magical and absolutely life-changing. And then we went in August to the next mastermind retreat, and then me, Sabrina, and Rachel stayed in California for a few days. So, and then in December, we're going to go and stay in Sedona for a few more days because BBD Live is in Scottsdale. And I was booking my flights, and, I used to like clearance shop even flights. Like I'd be like, whatever the cheapest is, I don't care how long it takes me to get there, like whatever the cheapest is. And now I'm like, no, there's nonstop flights there and back. I'm going to book that even though it's quite pricier than the others. I'm going to I'm going to upgrade my seat so I have enough leg room. I'm going to I'm going to be comfortable on my flight. And then this morning we booked our Airbnb for, staying a few days later. And it's these type of things where it may seem small, but I would have been anxious about that. I would have been anxious about dropping, a couple $1,000s on a trip just on a whim like that. I would have thought about it. I would have, created all of these stories around it. Like, should I not? Like, shouldn't we should be staying somewhere cheaper. We should be, like clearance shopping our Airbnbs instead of just like enjoying the fact that we get to stay in this luxury, beautiful place. And we're going to go and explore and we're going to do all the spiritual stuff. I'm like, I literally cannot wait. It's going to be worth every fucking cent. And now I get to do all of those things from a place of knowing that I'm being guided to do those things, knowing that it's all going to be fine, that money's going to come back tenfold. It always does. It always does. And so it's such a different place of living from being in survival mode all the time. And so I really invite you to take this practice seriously, to do a money date, try to release any judgment again about where it is that you are, because it's not important. Where it is that you're going is not determined by where it is that you are or where it is that you've been in the past. And just see what shifts in your life as a result. This is a really powerful practice. So I hope that you take it and you do something with it. And I would love to hear from you how it went and what you experienced and what you started to notice to begin to shift in your life as a result. So if you want to shoot me a DM on Instagram, I'm at Rise with Rebekah. All the information will be in the show notes, obviously. And that's just episode number 1 of this series. So we're going to dive in to 3 more tips on how to break through your current financial plateau. So make sure that you tune into the other episodes as well. And if you found this valuable, please share it with someone that you know would also find value. It's a way that I can reach more people and we can get this message out there together. This is my favorite thing to do in the world, is to help women just like you to break through their limitations, to be able to overcome money anxiety and rewire their brain and body for abundance. And that's really possible for you. And I just am the literal epiphany of, is that the right word? Epitome, not epiphany. Geez, I am like on it today with all these, not in a good way, with all with all of these, I was gonna say typos, Anyways, guys, I love you. Okay. Thank you for being here and being with all my crazy energy today. I am not gonna lie, I don't always drink energy drinks. I'll drop this on you guys at the end. This is a Zevia energy drink. All right. And I don't have any regular Zevias left. So I've got the energy drink going, and I think it's not computing and my stuff aren't I don't love energy drinks, okay? But I ordered a bunch of them once and then I kind of just have had them sitting around. And so I tried one today. Probably won't do it again for the podcast because I feel like I'm a little bit scatterbrained with it. But hopefully this episode was valuable to you. And I probably won't be, buzzing on the next ones when we go into parts three. Oh my gosh, two, three, and four. See? I don't drink a lot of caffeine anymore either, guys. You know what I've been doing is my friend Rachel, she's at Real Health with Rach on social media, on Instagram. So go find her because she's amazing. She's been helping me with like my hormonal imbalances and healing around my hormones and like PCOS and all that, which caffeine's not great for. So hopefully she's not listening and it's going to yell at me, but no, I'm just joking. But she helped me to stop. Like I've been replacing my coffee in the morning with cacao, like ceremonial grade cacao, and it's been incredible. It's literally like changed my life. So if you find her, she has like this mini, you can try it like for cheap. She has like a little mini course where she'll send you like a block of cacao. And that's how I started. And, it's like a Mexican hot chocolate. Like it's really, really, I like it. I enjoy it a lot. But instead of what she explained it to me, and then we're landing the plane with this, okay, is caffeine is a nervous system stimulant. Hence, I probably shouldn't be drinking it. But you know what? I allow myself to do things anymore. Like I'm not, I haven't had one of these in like a long time. Okay. So nervous system stimulant. And then cacao has something called theobromine in it, which is like I don't know all of the science behind it, but basically what it does is my understanding is that it helps to increase, like heat up your insides. Oh my God, I don't know. I'm explaining this so bad. Basically, I think it's like a metabolism thing where it just creates heat within the body and creates actual energy from within instead of like just a nervous system stimulant, which can make you crash later. So it gives you like a real clean energy for like 6 hours. I absolutely love it. And it's been helping me to heal my hormones instead of like doing my coffee and my caffeine in the morning like I was for years. So Rachel has helped me a lot and she's incredible. So, anyways, guys, I'm going to put you out of your misery because I'm all over the place today, but thank you for hanging out with me. It's been so wonderful seeing you all, and I can't wait to dive into part two. So I hope to see you back for that episode. All right. Bye, everyone. Soul Sister, thank you so much for tuning in to this entire episode today. If you enjoyed this episode, would you do me a favor and leave a quick review? This allows me to reach more people, and if you found value, I know others in your life will too. Also, be sure to share this episode on social media along with your biggest takeaways so I know what resonates most with you and I can keep the good stuff coming. And if you're looking to dive into a deeper connection than this podcast will allow, consider checking out my Rise to Riches experience in the show notes below. I would love to hear how these messages have helped you take one step closer to living your soul-powered life and becoming the wildly wealthy woman. Sis, let's continue to rise together. I'll see you next time. Bye.